Ghost Story by Jim Butcher. This is the 13th book in the series, 578 pages, 51 chapters. This book is focused on a detective in Chicago who is a wizard and is listed in the phone book. So he is public, very unusual for most of the magic fantasy categories, right? They try to stay hidden and out of sight. He has gone public. This is a different take as well, in that the main character of the series is dead, in that he is a ghost now. So you get to see what happens after he dies. I did like that twist. Very philosophical. So, like there was some angels, there were some demons, there was a little bit of like choices and that kind of thing. So interesting twist. Good storyline. There was lots of running around, and the end goal is to find his killer. So the main character was murdered. He got shot and fell into Lake Michigan, and comes back as a ghost, or a shade is what they call it in this book, which is neat. It's a good way to look at it. And really, his mission is to find his killer. So who shot him? He doesn't know, and he gets to go back. When he goes back, from his perspective as a shade, only 3 days have passed. However, in the real world, almost 6 months have passed. So lots of things are different. He has to adjust to all the changes and figure out what he's going to do, because he's kind of a ghost shade and not many people can hear him or talk to him, or he can't even really interact with the real world. So makes investigating extra tricky. I did like that the shades have memories, and that they are powerful based on their memories, their life force, that kind of thing. Really liked that part. Sir Stuart is awesome. He's a fun character, and that Harry learns from, and kind of apprentices from as a shade, as a ghost. Rag Lady is really cool. I like the idea that with Harry gone, nobody is enforcing Chicago's mystical community, supernatural community. And I like that his apprentice, Molly, took up the mantle and calls herself the Rag Lady. So she doesn't actually kill the people. She just puts them in situations where they usually take out each other. And she uses illusions and veils and different like disguises, that kind of thing. And then on the crime scene, she leaves a bunch of rags, and she's the Rag Lady. So in absence of Harry, there is the Rag Lady protecting Chicago. That was pretty neat. Again, one of my favorite characters of the series is Bob the Skull, and he plays a big part here because he is a spirit and lives in the spirit world, so he can interact with Harry, the main character, as a shade. Also, Evil Bob is really cool. That was a good twist, right? There was consequences from a long time ago when Harry, the main character, said, remove all those memories. We don't want them anymore. And so that comes back to haunt both of them. Very neat, very interesting. We don't really know what happened with the Evil Bob confrontation. So hopefully more on that in the future. Things I didn't like: the shades eating each other, and becoming more powerful. Feel like, if you have that much time, eventually there would be just one giant super shade that just vacuums up all the others as soon as they become shades. And to me, that seemed kind of like, I don't know, it just seemed like that's how it would play out. But it was part of the storyline, and it was needed, but it just seemed like something that I didn't enjoy as much. Corpse Taker as a villain, right? Already defeated, but back as a ghost. I don't know, it was cool. I liked that the Corpse Taker was trying to get back to human form, but also it just seemed like that, I don't know, I didn't feel right as that being the main supernatural villain to me. So the last thing that I didn't like was the Former, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but really we didn't hear or see much of them. It was just kind of mentioned that they took up the vacuum after the Red Court of Vampires were vanquished. That left a power vacuum, and so it's a competition between Gentleman Johnny Marcone, the Former, and this ragtag team of hairy allies that is led by Murphy. So maybe we'll hear more about it in the next few books, but I didn't hear enough about them to see that they were villains and that kind of thing. So it just seemed a little off to me. But overall, really good book. I liked the storyline, the way it played out, and it is a little bit more philosophical than the other previous books. Some of Harry's abilities were really neat. He was still in the mode of human, and so like he couldn't go through like seats and walls and stuff. But as soon as he like figured it out and learned, he could, walk through walls and solid objects, that kind of thing. And also vanishing, right? He could disappear from one place and show up a few feet away. So that was a cool skill that helped him get around quicker. Took him a little bit to learn, but that's okay. And my favorite part of this whole book was the final battle. It was a psychic battle between Corpse Taker and Molly, and it was a really nicely done. It made it a really super sci-fi adventure with a couple of twists along the way. There was Godzilla and Star Trek, Star Wars, nukes, castles, storming the castles, dragons. It was a lot of fun. So the last two things, there's two quotes in here that stood out to me, and I will read them for you. This one is on page 158. Don't be so simple. People adore monsters. They fill their songs and stories with them. They define themselves in relation to them. Do you know what a monster is, young shade? Power. Power and choice. Monsters make choices. Monsters shape the world. Monsters force us to become stronger, smarter, better. They sift the weak and from the strong and provide a forge for the stealing of souls. Even as we curse monsters, we admire them, seek to become them in some ways. They are far, far worse things than to be a monster. There are far, far worse things to be than a monster. This was Harry in his own grave as a shade, though, interacting with someone in the graveyard, another shade. And really that stood out to me in that, defining oneself in relation to a big scary monster is something that people do. And it's not something that we really talk about or think about very often. So that was something that stood out. I really liked that part. Another one, this is on page 329. Harry is talking with his fairy godmother, also in his grave. There must be balance, sweet godchild, always balance. Never take a thing without giving such a thing in return. Never give a favor without collecting one in kind. All of reality depends on balance. This is kind of like reciprocity, reciprocal gifts, right? A reciprocity taken to the extreme, right? All things in balance. Everything that Harry does in Chicago, action, reaction, right? So he may have vanquished the Red Court, but other people stepped up, other villains stepped up to fill the void and the vacuum. So, and in the end of this book, he does have to answer for his consequences. He tried to skip out on some deals that he made before he was killed. So I won't give away the killer, but it kept me guessing. It was a good mystery, and this one made me want to keep reading to the end. I'm not sure exactly how many books there are, but I think I'm getting close, and this has been an excellent series set in the Midwest, and just a really great sci-fi detective story. So this is Ghost Story, and buy your books used if you can.